जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Honorable Registrar, Mumbai University, Dr. Dinesh Kambleji, Head of the Department, Sanskrit, Mumbai University, Dr. Madhviji, other dignitaries on the dais, researchers, scholars, students, guests, and ladies and gentlemen. It's my privilege, pleasure, honor to be here in front of you, speaking on this topic of the relevance, the importance, the significance of the Vaishnava Puranas, and personally being a student of the Bhagavad Purana, I would focus in my talk and discussion on understanding the context and the relevance of the Srimad Bhagavad Purana. I'll begin with a series of questions and take each one of these questions from the perspective of the Bhagavad Purana. The first question is why? Why is Bhagavad Purana so relevant? Why are the Vishnu Puranas so relevant? In the first canto, first chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is described, Prayena alpayusha sabhya kalau asmin yuge jana manda sumanda matayoho manda bhagya hi upadrataha. The scriptures are vast like an ocean, and we also need tremendous amount of energy, concentration, time to go through each and every verse described in the scripture. As Honorable Registrar Saab very clearly described in his wonderful speech, people are looking for something which is relevant, which is laser focus, which makes a difference in their lives. And therefore this verse speaks that the lifespan in Kali Yuga as compared to the previous yugas will progressively decrease. The attention span will go on decreasing. The ability of people to comprehend complex subject matters will decrease. Therefore, this is the age for pre-digested, pre-mix, ready-to-eat solutions. And therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam is presented along with all the Puranas as the essence amongst all the Puranas, so that we get the actual conclusion of all the scriptures. What is the problem the Puranas are addressing? Each one of us is struggling hard in life to gain an identity. We begin with an identity as a member of a country, as a male or female in a species, as a student, as a professional, and within the career, our identities keep changing. Then one enters into family life and one develops identity as a husband or a wife, father or a mother. And various episodes, incidents, situations, circumstances in life keep changing some of those identities. And as the identities change, we go through various emotional upheavals, because the tendency of each one of us is to retain and find pleasure and stability in a certain identity. Therefore, in the Bhagavatam, second canto, it is described, Atma Maya Rate Rajan Parasyanu Bhavatmana Na Ghatetartha Sambandha Swapna Drashtur Ivanjasa. Why people go through depression? And WHO, World Health Organization, has declared that in the coming generation, the biggest disease will be mental illnesses. And mental illnesses originate when there is changing identities faster than the ability of each one of us to deal with. Why do students try to commit suicide? Because the result of the exam does not match their particular identity. Why do people go through trauma when there is a relationship breakdown? Because their identity as a loving father, mother, husband, wife takes a severe beating because it contradicts what the reality is projecting in front of them. Why do corporates and businessmen are going through trauma and sleepless nights and having the softest bed? They are experiencing such pain going to sleep because the reality of the balance sheets contradicts their own identity as a very intelligent, powerful, capable businessman. And these contradictions in trying to resolve all of these changing identities is the biggest crisis the world is facing, which results in multifarious problems like climate change. We have global petroleum crisis, biodiversity extinction. We have all kinds of exploitation, socio-economic diversities. All of these arise out of these split identities and problems arising due to this. And so Bhagavatam is analyzing and saying that when we realize that beyond all these changing identities, we have an eternal unchanging identity as a soul. And we have an eternal unchanging relationship with the Supreme. All the Puranas are actually trying to understand and bring out that. And therefore the example is given, Swapna Drashtur Ivanjasa. Just like in your daytime waking state, you have an identity. When you go to sleep at night, you may see yourself in another identity. And then when you are sleeping, you may be completely bewildered, thinking, what has happened? At 12 o'clock at night, in the dream, one sets up a huge business. 1 o'clock in the morning, in the dream, we make $1 million. And then 2 o'clock in the morning, in the dream, the market crashes and we lose the $1 million. And 3 o'clock we get up, sweating, thinking, I am lost, I am lost. But all the gain and loss happened in the dream. Na ghatetartha sambandha swapna drashturivanjasa. Therefore, this reality is totally different from the dream-like state. And the whole idea is how we can wake up. And that process of waking up is described here. Yatpada samshraya suta munaya prashamanaya sadyo punanti upasprishtaha swardhuni aponu sevaya. That waking up is done by contact with another person. And that is considered to be the contact with living saints, those who are gurus, spiritual teachers who are realized. And just like contact with Mother Ganges purifies the mind and the heart, contact with such personalities awakens us to our real, eternal, unchanging identity. Ko va bhagavatastasya punya shlokedya karmanaha shuddhi kamo nushruniyat mani kalimalapaham. It is described that just by contact with this transcendental sound vibration, the pernicious effects of Kali Yuga is counteracted. Yashaha Kali Malapaham Shuddhi Kamo Anushrunuyat. Therefore, the conditioned soul has two choices: to either contact with sense objects or to contact with sound vibration. The contact with sense objects creates multiple changing identities, which creates anxiety. And therefore, the Puranas come forth with this prospect: be in contact with the sound vibration. And Yashah Kali Malapaham, the influence of Kali Yuga can be counteracted. Therefore, in answer to the question why the Puranas exist, the Puranas exist to reveal to us our true spiritual unchanging identity through the medium of connecting us with transcendental sound vibration. The next question, which is described in the Bhagavad Puran, is who is eligible to study, understand, teach, and connect with this knowledge. And in the first canto itself, some of these qualities are described. Tvaya khalo puranani setihasi na chanaga akhyatani api adhitani dharma shastrani yanyuta. The first principle is described. Mundane subject matters only look for competence. But the Puranas, they demand synergy with character also. And therefore it is described here, Seti hasani cha anagha. The sages are telling Suta Goswami, dear Suta Goswami, you are anagha, you are sinless, and therefore qualified to understand, assimilate, absorb, and teach the Srimad Bhagavatam. So sinlessness in character is one qualification. The second qualification is described further. Akhyatani api adhitani dharma shastrani anyuta. The second qualification is one must scrutinizingly study these literatures and after having assimilated them, regularly teach them. So when you absorb and teach, the combination of assimilation and teaching uniquely qualifies one to actually understand the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Puranic literatures. So therefore, scrutinizing study and teaching is the second qualification. And the third qualification is described here. Yani Veda Vidam Sreshto Bhagavan Badarayana Anyecha Munaya Sota Paravara Vido Vidu. The third qualification is described that, O Suta Goswami, you have studied through all the systems of philosophy. And after having studied all of the systems of philosophy, then you are establishing the essence of all the Vedic literatures in context of all the others. So therefore, the third qualification is to understand the diversity in all the philosophies, and having understood the diversity in context to that diversity, then understand the conclusions. And therefore Suta Goswami fulfilled all of these three criteria, and so he was uniquely qualified to present the Puranas, especially the Bhagavad Purana. Then the third question is raised on how are the Puranas and the Puranic knowledge assimilated. We discussed why, we discussed who, and now the question is how. In the 10th canto, in the famous discussion between Parikshit Maharaj, the great king, and Shukadeva Goswami, towards the end of the 12th chapter of the 10th canto, which is practically like the end of the third day of the narration, because the Shamskand began towards the end of the third day. And as all of you know, that Bhagavad Puran consists of around 18,000 verses, out of which 9,000 verses are in the first 9 cantos itself. So in 7 days narration, 3.5 days if you divide it. So after the 3.5 days, the 10th canto began. And the Bhagavad Purana is being spoken by Shukadeva Goswami to a king who is about to face death in another 3.5 days. The king who was actually at the peak of youth and who had all the qualifications to rule, and he is facing death. In today's day and age, if someone is faced with the prospect of death, he will consider himself most unfortunate. The family members will think that this is a great misfortune, and they will think that this is a tremendous amount of calamity. Whereas here, Maharaj Parikshit is expressing, Vayam dhanya tamaloke guropi kshatra bandhava Vayam pibamo muhustvatta punyam Krishna kathamritam. He says, we are the most fortunate. Now, there are 3 levels. One is fortunate, second is more fortunate, and third is most fortunate. As per the Puranas, who is fortunate? One who connects with a bona fide teacher, who can decipher this understanding and the secret of this knowledge. One who finds such a teacher is considered fortunate. More fortunate is one who gets to hear from such great, evolved, experienced teachers. And one who gets to hear repeatedly from such teachers is considered to be most fortunate. And therefore, fortune and misfortune should not be interpreted from the perspective of what society considers. If someone has health, wealth, prestige, power, position, influence, they are considered traditionally to be fortunate. But the Puranas, and especially the Bhagavad Purana, is reversing this entire perspective by saying, who is most fortunate? One who gets to hear repeatedly from spiritually evolved, experienced teachers on the true context and the goal of life. Vayam dhanyatama loke guropi kshatra bandhava vayam pibamo muhustvatta punyam Krishna kathamritam. And therefore we are so fortunate that we are getting to hear from you again and again, O Shukadeva Goswami. As against the prospect and the calamity of impending death at the peak of youth, this opportunity to hear from you the Bhagavad Purana, it counteracts, defeats all these other ill effects which society may consider. In front of the life-giving elixir and nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam, the poison of impending death pales in insignificance. Therefore, I consider this opportunity to hear from you repeatedly as the greatest fortune. Hearing this, the great Vairagya Chudamani, Shukadeva Goswami, is overwhelmed with great bliss and joy. And he says, how this Srimad Bhagavatam must be heard, how this Srimad Bhagavatam must be assimilated, how the Puranic understanding must actually be absorbed in the heart. And he explains 3 qualifications required to understand this. The first one he says, Sadhu prishtam mahabhaga tvaya bhagavatottama yan nutanayasi ishasya shrinvannapi kathamuhu. He says, what a beautiful question you have asked, O Parikshit. Yan nutanayasi ishasya shrinvan api kathamuhu. Although it is a 3.5 days, and although you have not eaten or drunk or slept even one wink, your eagerness to hear is very attractive. That is the first qualification. That the person who wants to understand the Puranas must be eager. Then he says, the next qualification, that Satamayam Sarabhratam Nisargo yadarthavani shruti chetasamapi pratikshanam navyavat achyutasya yat striya vetanam iva sadhu vartaha. He says, the second qualification is that you have a great degree of submission and service attitude. This submission and service attitude is very important. And he says, Yadarthavani shruti chetasamapi. You're eager to hear the essence of these instructions, and all of these instructions and all of these literatures are ultimately there to inspire us and propel us into action and service. And therefore, one of the biggest challenges all the different organizations are facing globally is how to inspire people, how to motivate people to work and engage in productive contributions. And therefore, here it is described very beautifully by Shukadeva Goswami that by hearing this sound vibration with great submission, one is actually propelled into action. One actually becomes a servant leader. And so he says, Pratikshanam navyavadachyutasya tat striya vetanam iva sadhu vartaha. And therefore, a person becomes more and more eager to hear this very submissively, knowing that, yes, this will inspire me to serve better. And then the third most critical qualification for assimilation of the Puranas in the context of how is the hearer must have faith. And that Shraddha is very important. Shrinashva avaheto rajan api guhyam badamite broyuh snigdhasya shishyasya guravo guhyam apyuta. And he says that great teachers are inspired to teach this message to the submissive and faithful students. And Shukadeva Goswami tells Maharaj Parikshit in the second canto, Tadaham te vidasyami Maha paurushiko bhavan yasya shraddhadada masu shyan mukunde matih sati. And he says, I am teaching this Bhagavatam to you. Why? Because you are faithful and you are thoughtful. Therefore, a combination of both of this is very important. And this is the third qualification, that one must have strong faith in this message. And he says, Yasya shraddhatatam ashu syan mukunde mati sati. Because you have faith in these words and your mind is completely fixed on the transcendental sound vibration, I have decided to speak the Srimad Bhagavatam to you. So this is the third principle after why, who, and how. Now we come to the fourth principle of what exactly are the Puranas. What is the difference between the regular Puranas and Mahapurana? And what are the characteristics of the Mahapurana and especially the Bhagavad Purana? I quote from the Padma Purana and also from the Bhagavad. In the 12th canto it is described. In the second canto and the third canto also descriptions are given. Atra sarga visargascha sthanam poshanamutaya manvantara ishanu katha nirodha muktirashraya dashamasya vishuddhartam namanam ihalakshanam varnayanti mahatmana shrutena arthena anjasa. So it is described that the 10 characteristics of the Mahapurana and especially the Bhagavad Purana are in these 10 points. Sarga, creation. Visarga, sub-creation. Sthanam, position, poshanam, nourishment, utaya, desires, inclinations, manvantara, the influence and the intervention of the manus in administration of the universe, ishanukatha, the various narrations of the Lord and his incarnations, nirodha, the dissolution, mukti, liberation, ashraya, samam bonam, or ultimate shelter. And therefore it is described that in the smaller Puranas, as against the Mahapuranas, Sarga, Pratisarga, Vamshanucharita and Manvantara are narrated, whereas the other 5 topics are not narrated in great detail, whereas the Mahapuranas describe all of these in great detail. Specifically with the context of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1 and 2 are compared in the Padma Purana to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. The Skanda 3 and 4 are compared to the Lord's thighs. Skanda 5 or Canto 5 is compared to the Lord's navel. Canto 6 is compared to the Lord's chest. Canto 7 and 8 are compared to the Lord's arms. Canto 9 is compared to the Lord's throat. Canto 10 is the beautiful smiling face of Lord Krishna. And Canto 11 is compared to the forehead and Canto 12 to his head. And therefore, each of the skanda of the Srimad Bhagavat is actually compared to a limb of the Lord. And therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam is called the Granthavatar. When the Lord appears as a fish, he is called Matsya. When he appears as a tortoise, he is called Kurma. When he appears as a boar, he is called Varaha. He appears as a powerful Kshatriya, he is called Parshuram. He appears as an ideal king, he is called Rama. When the Lord appears as all the rasas put together, Akhila Rasamrita Murti, is called Krishna. When the Lord appears in the form of a book as a Granthavatar, he is called Srimad Bhagavatam. And therefore it is described, Dashamasya Vishuddhartam Navanam Ihalakshanam Varanayanti Mahatmanaha Shrutena Arthena Anjasa. The purpose of all the other 9 topics of the Bhagavatam is to distill the 10th topic, which is the Samam Bonam, the Ashraya, through Shrutena Arthena Anjasa, directly, indirectly, and through various kinds of allegories and analogies. Therefore, we go now systematically through the 10 topics as delineated in the Bhagavad Purana, right from the very beginning. And that is described here very beautifully in the whole context of what the Bhagavad Purana actually contains. So it is described right at the very beginning of the first canto that Shukadeva Goswami was a wandering mendicant. And so, when the sages were wondering, how could a wandering mendicant stay for 7 days and 7 nights at one place? Sa godohana matram hi griheshu grihamedinam avekshate mahabhagas tirthi kurvantadashramam. Previously, sages would go house to house in the morning and collect some milk which householders would give them. And for as much time as it would take to milk the cow, they would stay at that place. And in exchange for the milk, they would give some knowledge also. So Shukadeva Goswami was famous for constantly wandering. So how that he stayed at one place? That is a question which is being asked. Shivaya lokasya bhavaya bhutaye ka uttama shloka parayana jana. The sages are asking that Maharaj Parikshit's body was a shelter for others. He was protecting others. Why did he decide to give up his body if it was for a good cause? We don't understand this. And therefore, this Adbhut conversation between the king of the planet Maharaj Parikshit and Vyasdev's son Shukadeva Goswami becomes the hallmark which is known as the Srimad Bhagavatam. And it begins with a crisis. And the crisis is the crisis experienced by the author of the Puranas, Srila Vyasadeva, who is sitting at Badrikashram. And the crisis is he is experiencing dissatisfaction. As a literary champion, as an author, as a successful prolific writer, if you have accomplished writing of the 4 Vedas, 108 Upanishads, Vedanta Sutras, all the other 17 Puranas, it is no mean feat. It is something which no one in history has ever achieved. But Vyasadeva wants to drive home a very significant point. Achievements in life do not necessarily guarantee satisfaction. Achievements may have their role to play, but do not equate external achievements with internal joy, satisfaction, and harmony. And Vyasadeva places himself as a sterling example of such dissatisfaction. And Vyasadeva is expressing his dissatisfaction internally, and he says, Tathapi batame dahyo hi atma chaivatmana vibhu asampanna ivabhati brahma varchasya sattama. Although I have written and accomplished all of this, asampanna, I am experiencing incompleteness, dissatisfaction. And at that point, he is thinking, what may have gone wrong? And the guru of the entire world in terms of literary contribution also needs a guru in life to resolve his contradictions within his heart. And therefore, the age-old adage is proven again, a doctor cannot heal himself. And at that point, Shripad Narad Muni enters the scene. Vyasadeva ji proves that the purpose of all knowledge is not to make us proud, but just like a tree bearing fruits bends low, Vyasadeva, in spite of all of his accomplishments, has the humility to accept in front of Narad Muni that I need help. And thus, he is giving a very important, powerful lesson that the greatest, most powerful, most successful, most accomplished personalities in this world should always be ready to humble themselves in situations in life where they feel they need help to go to the next level. And so at this point, Narad Muni analyzes, and then he says, Bhavata anudita praya Yasho bhagavato malam yenaivasav na tushyeta manyetad darshanam khilam. He says, my dear Vyasadeva, yes, it is a fact that you have made mention about Vishnu and Krishna at various places and bhakti, but probably you have not emphasized and repeated it sufficiently. Yenai vasav na tushyeta tad manye tad darshanam khilam. And therefore, because of not having sufficiently repeated, anandamayo abhyasat. And therefore, probably you have to emphasize and focus on this aspect very pristinely, very purely, and in a focused manner. And therefore, he says, Tadvag Visargo Janataga Viplavo Yasmin Pratishloka Abadhavatapi Namani Anantasya Yashon Kitani Yat Shrinvanti Gayanti Grinanti Sadhava. He says, the transcendental glorification of the name, form, qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is so important that even if it is done imperfectly, when a house is on fire, it does not matter whether the bona fide firemen have come or not. They may take some time to come, but till then, whatever sources of water are there, one may use it to put out that fire because it is an emergency. And therefore, it is so important that this message be broadcast far and wide. That even if there are some imperfections, but because this is the water which soothes and cools the heart of the terrible inferno of the desire for selfish, egoistic enjoyment, this must be broadcast. And therefore, he says, Naishkaramyamapyachyuta bhavavarjitam na shobhate jnanamalam niranjanam. And even if you have reached the stage of Naishkarmya, but na shobhate jnanam alam niranjanam, it does not attract if achyuta bhava varjitam, if it is without the principle of selflessly serving the Supreme Lord, infallible Achyuta. Because the Atma cannot be in vacuum. If we are not serving the senses, we must connect and serve the Supreme Lord. And so, the Srimad Bhagavatam begins with Vyasadeva teaching his son, Shukadeva Goswami. And then the entire pastime begins with the conflict of the Pandavas. That Bhagavad Puran, whose pinnacle is the sweet dance of amazing majesty and grace between Krishna and the gopis. In Vrindavan, the land of pure love, the land of poetry, the land of grace. But that Bhagavad Puran begins with the ghastly episode of Ashwathama killing the sleeping sons of Draupadi, and Ashwathama trying to attack the last surviving heir, Parikshit, in the womb of Uttara. And Arjuna capturing Ashwathama, and a huge debate happening between Draupadi and Bhima, whether Ashwathama should be killed or Ashwathama should be spared. And it's very interesting that the Bhagavad Puran begins with this debate amongst very intimate devotees of Krishna, with Krishna right there who can act as the ultimate judge and give the verdict on the spot. But Krishna deliberately creates this conflict and difference of opinion happen right in front of him, where Draupadi is quoting from the scriptures that Ashwathama is the son of the Guru, and the son of the Guru should not be killed. Ashwathama is a Brahmana. Ashwathama is actually someone who is without arms. And for all these reasons, as per Shastra, he should not be killed. And on the other hand, we have Bhima and we have other people who are actually also describing, including Krishna, who's saying that a person who's actually performed any kinds of heinous activities, who's an attacker, who's a sinful, vile killer, must be killed. And the various kinds of aggressors are delineated, and there is no harm killing such aggressors. And in this way, there is a whole debate going on right in front of Krishna. Krishna wants to reveal that to understand the subtle aspects of decision making, we have to go deeper within our heart, introspect, and find the truth. And in this way, finally Arjuna finds the exact medium between the two. Arjuna takes away the money of Ashwathama, and in this way Ashwathama is killed and not killed, because for a Kshatriya, dishonor is worse than death. And therefore, the Bhagavad Puran is trying to communicate that if you have to understand the subtle message of this Bhagavad Puran, we have to be willing to go deeper. And therefore, the Pandavas who have Krishna's association right next to them, they go through repeated instances of defeat and misery, thus demonstrating that the Bhagavad Puran is not a guarantee that those who are devotees of Krishna will not face difficulties in life, but it is a demonstration of how such devotees face difficulties in life. And therefore, in this day and age, where each and every individual and family is facing challenges, conflicts, battles day in and day out. Such passages and pastimes are very relevant, which demonstrate the right attitude with which we must fight, because ultimately success and victory is not the actual outcome of the battle, but the attitude with which one fights the battle. And that's demonstrated by these beautiful verses of Bhishma Dev. Sarvam kalakritam manye bhavatam chayada priyam sapaloyat vashe loko vayor iva ghanavali. Bhishma looks at the 5 Pandavas with tears streaming from his eyes as he is lying on the bed of arrows awaiting his death. Bhishma thinks about all the instances throughout their entire life where injustice was perpetrated on the Pandavas, where the Pandavas were subjected to all kinds of violence and abominable crimes. But the Pandavas continued fighting day in and day out with courage and inspiration, because they realized that success in life is not the outcome, but success in life is not losing hope. And they were always hopeful. And therefore, just like clouds are thrown away by the wind, like that, our plans can be thrown away by the will of the Lord. And the will of the Lord is represented by the time factor. And so, Bhishma Dev says, Yatra dharma suto raja gada panir brakodara Krishno stri gandivam chapam suhrit Krishnas tato vipat. And the extreme example is that of the Pandavas. See the family of the Pandavas, where Yudhishthir is righteousness personified, Bhima is power personified, Arjuna is skill personified, Nakul and Sahadeva are loyalty personified, Krishna is the well-wisher, power personified. In spite of having all of these benefits, the Pandavas went through defeat after defeat after defeat. They were defeated in situations, but not in spirit. And that's what the Bhagavad Puran is trying to share. That you may be defeated in various situations in life, but do not experience defeat in your spirit. And therefore, the Pandavas, they actually represent this phenomena of being eternally optimistic. And so here it is described that the Pandavas then had their grandson Maharaj Parikshit, and that Maharaj Parikshit had everything going well for him. That Maharaj Parikshit had defeated even Kali personified, but by the will of the Lord, which is unpredictable, suddenly Maharaj Parikshit was cursed to die in 7 days and 7 nights by the son of Shamik Rishi, because Maharaj Parikshit was on a fine day going to the forest, and he saw a sage who was meditating, Shamik Rishi. He had his eyes closed. Maharaj Parikshit was feeling thirsty. When he approached the sage did not open his eyes. Maharaj Parikshit felt offended, and he put a dead snake around his neck. The sage did not retaliate. The sage's son, 5-year-old Shringi, he became angry and cursed Maharaj Parikshit to die in 7 days and 7 nights. The message: do not rely on the current situation of stability and peace you may be experiencing. It takes only a moment for our entire world and life to go topsy-turvy. And when that happens, how to face such a calamity, and the extreme calamity of death in 7 days, for the person who was controlling the most powerful, formidable, absolute army in the whole world, Maharaj Parikshit. Because to the extent one is powerful and is used to power, the more difficult it is for him to experience and accept defeat. So how difficult it must have been for Maharaj Parikshit. But he humbled himself and immediately accepted this as the will of the Lord, just like his grandfathers, and came to the bank of river Yamuna, and he sits there. He is surrounded by all the sages, and it is described here, Tammopayantam pratiyantu vipra Ganga cha devi dhrita chittamishe Dvijopasrishta kuhakas takshakova Dashatvalam gayata Vishnu gatha. And Maharaj Parikshit says, I was once controlling all the armies, but all those powers are irrelevant. Real power in life is to realize my powerlessness at the right moment and accept shelter of the higher powers. And therefore, dear sages, please speak Krishna Katha to me, because only that transcendental sound vibration can save me at the moment of death. We can plan all our days in life. We cannot plan the moment of our departure. Life is a preparation. Death is an examination. And therefore, at this point, Parikshit Maharaj asks two questions to the sages. Tatascha va pritchamimam vipriche vishrabhya kritya iti krityatayam sarvatmanam riyamanescha krityam shuddham cha tatramritayabhiyuktaha. Every human being in this life is grappling with these two questions. What should be our duty every moment of our life, and what should be our duty at the time of death? Please give the answer. And as the sages are giving various versions, the great son of Vyasadeva, Shukadeva Goswami, enters. All of the sages automatically get up, give him the seat of honor. Maharaj Parikshit very humbly bows down to him and says, Yasya samsmaranat pumsam sadyo shuddhyanti vaigraha kim punardarshana sparsha padashauchasanadibhi. Simply by remembering great souls like you, our hearts and our homes are purified. What to speak of seeing you, touching you, and placing the purified water upon our heads. And then Maharaj Parikshit says that your presence and my ability to hear this Purana from you is not an outcome of my own piety or my own achievement. Api me Bhagavan Prita Krishna Pandu Sutta Priya Paitra Satsevya Prityartham Yat Gotrasyat Bandhava. Yes, other things in life may be possibly planned, but some of the greatest opportunities and benedictions come in life without our effort and without our deserving it sometimes. And therefore Parikshit says, I have the fortune of having you here, O Shukadeva Goswami, because of my connection to the Pandavas and because Krishna considers the Pandavas to be so dear to them. And the kind of insurance which is given by Krishna goes beyond one lifetime and one generation. Krishna loves the Pandavas so much that Krishna is constantly looking after the next generation of the Pandavas and the next generation. And when Krishna saw that the Pandavas' grandson is in difficulty, he inspired Maharaj Shukadeva Goswami to come here and speak the Bhagavatam. Therefore, I consider that my connection to the family of the Pandavas as my fortune, that family which was very dear to Krishna, and Krishna is such a personal, loving master that he takes care of a family of his devotees much beyond their lifetime. And therefore, I am inclined to hear about such a loving master. And then when he asks Shukadeva Goswami, please speak very importantly, Yat shrotavyam atha japyam Yat kartavyam ribhi prabhu Smartavyam bhajaniyam va Bruhiyadva viparyayam. Please explain to us, O Shukadeva Goswami, what should one chant in life? What should one speak in life? What should one remember in life? What should one do in life? Every moment we are thinking, speaking, acting, connecting, relating. Please explain to us the GPS for life. And at that point, Shukadeva Goswami begins his narration from the second canto, which is kind of the introduction of the Bhagavad Purana. Variyanneshate prashna krito lokahitam nripa atmavit sarvata pumsa shrotavyadasu yatpara. He says, excellent question which has been asked by you. Variyan. Why? Because various questions are asked by people in life every moment, every day. But all those questions are only connected with how to fulfill the needs of the body. Atmavit sarvata. But the questions you have asked is connected to how to fulfill the needs of the soul. How to monitor the journey of the soul to its ultimate destination beyond death. And therefore he is extremely pleased with this question, and he says, Shrotavyadini Rajendra Nrinam Santi Sahasrasha Apashyatam Atmatattvam Griheshu Grihamedinam. And he says that there are multiple topics which are there in life. But the essence of all topics is what is the goal of life and the purpose of life at the time of death and beyond death. And so he says, Tasmat Bharata Sarmatma Bhagavan Ishvaro Hari Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha Smartavyascha Ichhata Abhayam. There are 4 human needs which are also common with other animals: eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. Ahara, Nidra, Maithun, and Bhay. Out of these 4, Ahara we do only few times in a day. Nidra also is limited. Maithun is also limited. There is only one out of these 4 which is all pervasive from the moment of waking up and sometimes even during sleep, and that is Bhay. So out of these 4, the tendency to fear is the most prominent. And so Shukadeva Goswami says, how to become Abhayam? Remember, chant, discuss the powerful, unlimited, glorious activities of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so here he says, Etavan Sankhya Yogabhyam Swadharma Parinishthaya Janmalabha Paraha Pumsam Ante Narayana Smriti. As far as all the various processes of spiritual emancipation are concerned, the concluding, unambiguous conclusion of all is to think of Krishna at the time and the moment of death. And the moment we think about him, we go to his abode. And so he says, Idam Bhagavatam Nama Purana Brahma Samitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi. And so he says that this Bhagavatam Purana has been written specifically for this purpose, to help us transform the desires of our heart, to manage our thoughts and aspirations, so that we are able to focus on the ultimate goal of life. And so he says, Parinishthito Pinairgunye Uttama Shloka Lilaya Gruhita Cheta Rajarshe Akhyatam Tat Adhitavan. That although I was situated at a platform beyond the influence of the 3 modes, still I was attracted by these narrations, these topics of the Bhagavad Purana. And therefore he says, my dear king, O Parikshit Maharaj, the ultimate conclusion given by all the great sages is this: Etad nirvidyamananam Ichhatam akuto bhayam yoginam nripanirnitam harer namanu kirtanam. Are you a person who desires fearlessness? Ichhatam akuto bhayam. Do the hospitals, colleges, universities, all kinds of bodies of knowledge, all kinds of bodies which give treatments, have the formula to provide true, genuine fearlessness? Akuto bhayam. He says, here is one solution. Yoginam nripanirnitam harer namanu kirtanam. By the kirtan of the Supreme Lord's holy names, that kirtan, that glorification is a sure short way of having protection from fear. Just like a small child who's fearful in dark, as soon as he jumps into the mother's lap, he feels fearless. Why? Because he knows, I am fully protected. When we experience that protection moment to moment, there is no need to feel fearful. And therefore, one of the greatest fears one goes through is the prospect of death. And this statement is being spoken to a man about to die. And therefore, I conclude with giving a brief definition of each one of these 10 topics as described right from the third canto. Sarga is described as Bhutatmendriyadhyam Janmasarga Udahrita. The creation of the 16 elements, which includes the earth, water, fire, air, ether, the 5 sense organs, and the 5 tanmatras, Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, and mind. These 16, creation of these are called Sarga. So therefore, from the spiritual world, Vaikuntha, when the jiva desires to enjoy separate from the Lord, that independent desire to try to fulfill one's own selfish ambitions is facilitated by creating this material world. In the Vaikuntha, the Supreme Lord Vishnu is the center. When the jiva wants to act as the center, a special software is created. That software is called false ego. Under the influence of false ego, each person can falsely think that I am the center of the universe. That false conception is what we are trying to struggle with. And that is why how that particular false conceptions are created, facilitated, is described here. And therefore, this is known as Sarga. Janasya Krishnat Vimukhasya Daivat Adharmashilasya Sudukhitasya Anugrahayaiva Charanti Nonam Bhutani Bhavyani Janardanasya. If a multimillionaire son has a fight with the father and goes around begging on the street, someone may give him food, someone may give him shelter, someone may give him clothes. But what is the greatest service you can do? Help that son reconcile his difference of opinion with the father and gain the property and the inheritance of his father. And therefore, Sarga is when that soul, the son, has a fight with the father and is going around in this world, and the world has been created by the father himself. Go, experience your own world and see. And so, the second aspect is called Visarga. So apart from the elements, someone has to put the elements together. So you have cement, steel, bricks, everything, but you need architect and the construction workers to put it together. So therefore, Visarga is that which is put together by Brahmaji. Brahmano guna vaishamyat Visarga paurusha smrita. Brahmaji takes all of these elements together, catalyzes them, and he creates this universe, and he manufactures or puts 8.4 million species and the souls, as per their unique, individual, independent desire to enjoy, he gives them residence in one particular space. Varieties are created within this universe to facilitate varieties of desires to enjoy. Kshutritridhatu birima muhurardyamana shitoshnavat varashair itaretaracha kamagnina achyutarushacha durbharena sampashyato mana urukramasidate me. Brahmaji is offering his prayers at the beginning of creation. When after seeing the Supreme Lord, he says, my dear Lord, what is my project? And the Lord says, your project is to make sure every soul who takes a material body gets frustrated in his desires. Create adidaivik, adibhautik, adhyatmic miseries. Create indefatigable anger and all kinds of other emotions within the heart. Hunger, thirst. These are all created, facilitated by Brahmaji. And therefore this is Visarga. Now, the third principle is Sthanam. That yes, the city has been created. Sthanam is, in different parts of the city, different experiences are available. In Malabar Hill, you have one experience. In Dharavi, you have another experience. In different parts, you have experience of different ways. And therefore, now, Sthitir Vaikuntha Vijaya. The right situation of the jivas is to obey the laws of the Lord. And that is the subject matter of the Sthanam, which is the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And so, we find that in the 3rd and 4th canto, from the pastimes of Daksha, Dhruva, and Prithu Maharaj, the influence of bhakti in the modes of ignorance, in the modes of passion, in the modes of goodness is demonstrated. And how, when one is trying to independently try to fulfill his desires in this world, it is so challenging. And now in the 5th canto, all the different positions are described. And so, Kalpayushat sthana jayat punarbhavat kshanayushat bharata bhujayovaram. And various situations in the material world are described. The complete geography of the creation of the 14 planetary systems is described. The various situations in the 29 types of hell in the Narakaloka is described in detail to give us an opportunity to choose what kind of experience you want within this creation. And so the heavenly denizens are praying to the Lord, we do not want eternal life or a long life in heavenly planets. Kshanayushat bharata bhujayovaram. We would rather prefer a shorter lifespan in Bharatvarsha. And therefore they say here, Smriti pramushta atishaya indriya utsavat. In the heavenly planets, there is constant, total festival for sense gratification. We are unable to remember your divine feet, my dear Lord. And so, sthana is basically what positions can be occupied. And depending on that position, a certain experience is demonstrated. The 4th topic of Bhagavatam is called Poshanam. Poshanam tat anugraha. Government provides for everyone, but parents are partial towards their children. Therefore, Poshanam means having created the 14 planetary system and the facilities therein, still the Lord personally is partial, shamelessly partial towards his devotees. And therefore that is described as Poshanam tat anugraha, that the living entity should be in perfect peace of mind under the protection. And so we have the pastime of Ajamil in the 6th canto, where Ajamil, he has a son called Narayana. And Ajamil, just at the time of death, having performed all kinds of sinful acts with a prostitute, is about to die. And at that moment, when the Yamadutas come, Ajamil calls out to his son, Narayan, Narayan, Narayan. And immediately the Vishnudutas come. And so it is described here. Kechit kevalaya bhaktya vasudeva parayana agam dhunvanti karsneya niharam iva bhaskaraha. that just like the sun dissipates fog, the holy name of Lord Krishna dissipates the sin. Na tatha hi aghavan rajan puyeta tapa adibi yatha Krishna arpita pranas tat purusha nishevaya. And all kinds of prayashchit may cleanse the reactions of sin, but they do not cleanse the tendency to perform sin. And the best way to do that is to take shelter of a living personality who has taken shelter of Krishna with dedication. Tat purusha nishevaya. Sadrichino hi ayam loke panthaha kshemaha akuto bhaya sushila sadhavo yatra narayana parayana. And so Bhagavatam declares, the Bhagavatam is very powerfully explaining that the best path, which is recommended as the summum bonum, is described here in all of these different processes. Pantha kshemah akuto bhaya, that which provides the path of fearlessness, is Narayana Parayana. And therefore he says, Esha prakriti sangena purushasya viparyaya asit sa eva na chiradisha sangat viliyate. And therefore Ajamil, he was looking away from the Lord. A little bit you glance towards the Lord, and the Lord brings you closer. And therefore Isha Sangat is facilities created by the Lord to connect with Him in this world. And so the Ajamil pastime is a landmark event which describes the power that even an imperfect relationship with the divine would go a long way than the perfect relationship with objects of this world. Mriyamano harer nama grinana putropacharitam ajamilopi agadhama kim punarshadhaya granan. Ajamil till the time of death, he was sinful. He was not remembering the Lord. He did not know the glories of the holy name. And Ajamil actually shouted his son's name. Still he got the benefit. What if one actually follows the principle, calls out to the Lord and understands the glories of the name? How much more benefit he will get. And in this way, 6th canto also brings about that bhakti can be performed by anyone in any circumstance, and it reverses our misconception that demons cannot practice bhakti because Vritrasur is in demoniac body and his consciousness is higher than Indra, because Indra at this moment is fruitively inspired and is selfishly inspired, whereas Vritra becomes completely selfless. Aham harer tava padaika moola dasanudasa bhavitasma bhuya. And Vritrasur is giving lessons to Indra that actually you should try to become the servant of the servant of the servant. And my aspiration is nanaka prishtham nacha parameshtyam naza sarva bhaumam narasadipatyam. He says, I do not want to go to the heavenly planets. I do not want yoga siddhis. Na yoga siddhi apunarbhavam va samanjasa tva virahyakankshe. Samanjasa, O source of all opportunities, I only aspire to be a servant, and that's my only desire. Ajata paksha iva mataram khaga stanyam yatha vatsarata kshudharta priyam priyaiva vyushitam vishanna mano arvindaksha didrikshate tvam. Just like a small bird in the nest is constantly looking forward for the mother to return back. Just like a calf is looking forward to drink the milk of his mother. Just like a lover is looking forward for the beloved to return and embrace. I am constantly looking for you, my dear Lord, to come and give me an opportunity to serve you. And so, Poshanam means the specific partial reciprocation of the Lord to those who become His devotees. The 5th topic is called Uti, and it is defined as Utaya Kama Vasana. We can have inclinations, impetuses, which could be of 2 types. First, inauspicious, other auspicious. So Sridhar Swami describes Uti as Shubh, Ashubh, Ichha. Saptam Skanda, 7th canto, through the character of Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad, demonstrate Ashubh Ichha through Hiranyakashipu and Shubh Ichha to Prahlad Maharaj. The Ichha manifested as the anger of the demons. Sa itham nirjitakakub ekarad vishayan priyan yathopajosham bhunjano natripyat ajitendriya. Hiranyakashipu got the control of the entire universe, but still he was dissatisfied and frustrated because his senses were not in control. Whereas Prahlad Maharaj, he demonstrated the auspicious desires of a devotee, which manifest as a result of the mercy and the grace of the Vaishnavas. Nodvigna chitta vyasaneshu nispraha shruteshu drishteshu guneshu avastudrik dantendriya prana shariradi sada prashanta kamo rahita sura sura. Although Prahlad Maharaj was son of a demon, Hiranyakashipu, in his heart there was no agitation to enjoy material sense gratification, either in this life or to enjoy heavenly pleasures in the next life. Prashanta Kamo, he was devoid of all desires. Rahita Sura Sura, although he was born in Asura family, he was devoid of Asuric tendencies. And so when Hiranyakashipu, out of his inauspicious desires, tried to control him and kill him, the main problem, the main inauspiciousness which Hiranyakashipu is demonstrating to all of us is that false ego. Yastvaya mandabhagyokto madanyo jagadishvara Kvasau yadi sa sarvatra kasmat stambhe na drishyate. Hiranyakashipu tried to act as the cool, educated man, but when his security as the number one was threatened, he was shaken, and the vicious, poisonous personality within came out. And therefore that is described as Madanyo Jagadishwara. As long as our false ego is not agitated, as long as our supreme position is not affected, it is very easy to act calm and cool. But when our position is threatened, the real demoniac tendencies come out. And Hiranyakashipu had only one problem in life. The whole universe is accepting me as number one. Why my son Prahlad is not accepting me? It was simply a manifestation of the disease of the false ego. And modern times have seen wars of such proportion where millions of innocent souls have been killed simply because of the uncontrolled false ego of someone like Hiranyakashipu, like demons like this. And therefore, the 6th topic after Uti is Manvantara. And Manvantara is defined as Manvantarani Sadharma, Manus and laws meant to give the right direction. And so in the 8th canto, repeatedly, various Manus pastimes are described. Lord takes avatars in all of those Manus reigns and provide protection to the devotees and help to the devotees. And specifically, in the Gajendra, famous Gajendra pastime, it is described, Evam vyavasita buddhya samadhaya manohrdi jajapa paramam japyam pragjanma anushikshitam. Because Gajendra had heard about this sound vibration in the previous lives, in this life he remembered that and he actually managed to pray to the Lord. Madrik prapanna pashupasha vimokshanaya muktaya bhuri karunaya namo lalaya swamshena sarvatanubhrik manasi pratita pratyak drishe bhagavate manasi pratita. Says, my dear Lord, you are the only one who is the supreme shelter. You are the only one who are our guide. You are the only one who actually cares for all the souls. I do not care to remain in this body. All I care is I should have your shelter. If not in this life, in some life in the future. Please remove the ignorance which I am having. I do not fear losing this body, but I fear not losing the ignorance. Therefore, please take away this ignorance of mine. And so the seventh topic of Bhagavad is called Ishanu Katha. Avatara Anucharitam Harescha Haresh Yap Charitam Pumsam Isha Anukata Praha Nana Akhyapa Brahmitam. It is described, Lord's pastimes with his devotees is called Ishanu Katha. And so there are pastimes of how Lord protected his devotee Ambarish from the attack of Durvasa. Ajanata te paramanubhavam kritam mayagam bhavata priyanam. And at that point, when Durvasa Muni is chased by the Sudarshan Chakra, he is telling the Lord in Vaikuntha, I did not realize the power of your devotee Ambarish, and therefore please forgive me for this, my dear Lord. And Ambarish is glorified by Durvasa Muni, the greatest mystic yogi, by saying, Aho anantadasanam mahatvam drishtamadhyame kritagasopiyan rajan mangalani samihase. Aho anantadasanam. The devotees of the Lord are so powerful that although I prayed amangal for him, he is praying mangal for me. I can really see that this quality of forgiveness is what actually identifies a Vaishnava. So when we are speaking of the Vaishnava Puranas, we should know that this quality of forgiveness or kshama is a very, very important theme to be considered. And that's what is seen here. And then the eighth topic is called Nirodha. Nirodho Syanushyanam Atmana Sahasaktibi. When there is dissolution of the conditioned living entity at the time of annihilation, that is called as Nirodha or Pralaya. There are four kinds of dissolution described in the Bhagavad Purana. First is called Naimittika, occasional, at the end of Brahma's day. Second, Pralaya or Nirodha is called Prakritik, the elemental dissolution at the end of Brahmaji's life. The third kind of Pralaya or Nirodha is called Nitya, where moment after moment our cells are dying, new cells are being born. There is constant destruction happening. And the fourth kind of Nirodha is called Atyantika, where the false ego is dismantled. And all of us are actually aspiring for that Atyantika Pralaya. And therefore, Nirodha is very important, because don't think that time will take care of the desires. No. The inauspicious demoniac desires will travel with the soul in the subtle entity form and continue for millions of years all through Brahma's night, and will be reborn again till they find fulfillment. And therefore, the greatest accomplishment in life is to transform our desires, purify our desires. And that is called Atyantika Pralaya. When those desires are changed from being inspired by our false ego for selfish gratification to the desires which are selflessly directed, not only we benefit, the entire society benefits. And dear friends, throughout history, if you remember, which are the names which society worships and cherishes? It is not the names of those who were selfishly oriented and who achieved things for their selfish benefits, but those who gave themselves completely in service of others selflessly. And therefore, this Nirodha is a very important topic. Ninth topic of Bhagavatam is Mukti. Muktir hitva anyatha rupam swarupena vyavasthiti. The permanent situation of the living entity at the lotus feet of the Lord, beyond the changes of the gross and subtle elements. Swarupena vyavasthiti, when the soul, everyone has a tendency to serve. The soul's dharma is to serve. But when that service is directed towards the eternal service of the Supreme Lord. That's called Mukti. And therefore, Uddhava in the 11th canto says, Tapatrayena bhihitasya ghore santapyamanasya bhavadvanisha pashyami nanyat sharanam tavangri dvandvat patrat amritabhivarshat. He says, my dear Lord, this selfish desire to enjoy is creating such a burning forest fire in the heart. I am looking forward to cooling showers from you. And therefore your lotus feet act as the umbrella which protect me from the constant downpour of miseries and calamities in life. Therefore, please give me shelter at your feet. Durlabho manavo deho dehinam kshanabhangura tatrapi durlabham manye vaikuntha priyadarshanam. The human form of life is very rare. Rarer still in the human form of life is to have a longer life in human form. Rarer still is in that short human form of life to get the association of those who are aware of Vaikuntha and who are moving on the path of Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha Priyadarshana. And therefore, this consciousness is created through satsang, through the right association, where the right aspirations are created, because association defines aspirations. And that's the theme of the Puranas, that they are trying to create a particular kind of aspiration based on the association they are providing us through sound vibration. And therefore, the 10th and the final topic of the Bhagavatam, which is the Samam Bonam, is called Ashraya. And therefore it is described, Abhasascha nirodhascha yatosti adhyavasiyate sa ashraya parabrahman paramatmeti shabdyate. And therefore the source, the reservoir, the winding up and the supreme fountainhead of all is described as Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Ashraya Tattva. Dashamasya vishuddhartam navanam iha lakshanam. All the other 9 topics are meant to distill and bring out and realize this 10th topic, the Ashraya Tattva. And so, when Krishna appears, he appears in a way which no one can imagine. He appears after 6 of his brothers have been killed. He appears to his parents who have been jailed helplessly in Kamsa's prison house. Because Krishna wants to demonstrate that I appear only to those whose heart is filled with hope in the midst of hopelessness. Where all the circumstances make a person feel hopeless, still the person does not feel hopeless and he is hopeful. Then Krishna is attracted to be born within the womb of such a person. And so Devaki and Vasudeva represent this quality of eternal hopefulness. And so one of the terms used for describing Vasudeva is Tatascha Shauri Bhagavat Prachodita Sutam Samadaya Cha Sutika Grihat. Is described as Shauri. Shauri means brave. Brave is not someone who can defeat an enemy at a particular point. Brave means one who is ever hopeful in all kinds of situations and is willing to fight in spite of the fact that all the odds are totally stacked against us. And therefore, I quote here Winston Churchill, who says, success is the ability to go from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. And therefore, Krishna says, I appear in one of the most externally hopeless condition, being attracted by the eternal hopeful condition of the heart of Vasudeva and Devaki. Sa Devaki sarva jagan nivasa nivasa bhutam nitaram nareje bhojendra gehe agni shikhe varuddha saraswati jnana khale yatha sati. Sa Devaki sarva jagan nivasa. That Devaki in whose womb practically the Supreme Lord Krishna who is the controller and the reservoir of the entire universe, he fitted in by his inconceivable transcendental divine potency. Bhojendra gehe agni shikhe varuddha. And that effulgence of Kamsa, that effulgence of Devaki was due to the association with Krishna, but it remained hidden within that prison house. Nobody could see that. Saraswati jnana khale yathasati. Therefore, we should know that the knowledge of the Puranas is very powerful. The knowledge of the Bhagavad Purana is very powerful and transforming. But all of this knowledge is currently in a very limited setting. The context is accessed and understood only by a few. And just like Krishna, when he was born in the jailhouse of Kamsa, his glories were not known. But when he was transferred from Mathura to Gokul, then his glories started spreading. Eshava Shreya Adhasyat Gopa Gokula Nandana Anena Sarvadurgani Yuyamanjas Tarishyata. And Krishna revealed his real pastimes and power in the pastures of Gokul, Braj, Vrindavan, Govardhan. And in this way, the real power of these Puranas has to be brought out in the open in a way where the world can actually understand it, where the thought leaders can actually apply it and create real-time transformation for individuals and societies, so that we are actually able to impact this entire world in a very powerful manner through the power of accessing the knowledge of the Vaishnava Puranas. I am very grateful to the Sanskrit Department, University of Mumbai, especially Dr. Madhviji and her team, who have gone out of their way to organize this brilliant conference and who have very kindly invited me to share some of my realizations, my thoughts, specifically on the Bhagavad Purana, which I have studied for a few years. And I am hopeful that in the coming years, the Bhaktivedanta Research Center, which is a fledgling research center, which is just, I would say, being born, will actually find guidance and shelter from the powerful community of scholars here in Mumbai University and the other academicians all over the world, so that we can do real-time benefit to individuals and societies. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.